Although the Green Bay Packers didn't finish number 1 last season, Aaron Rodgers was accorded top billing in a recent NFL Network poll of his peers. Tony Romo, he also had a 1 in front of his name, number 91. So what does it all mean, if anything? And how do we put Rodgers in context with Bart Starr and Brett Favre? We'll talk about it next on Sidelines.
It's good to be back. It's good to be back with the guys. A lot of energy, a lot of new guys, new faces. It's fun. It's good to be back in the schedule. It's nice to be off, but there's something to be said about a structure, and it's good to be back.
Still a little fire in the belly from the playoff loss? No?
That's long since forgotten.
Boy, he doesn't lie very well, does he? Or do you think he was telling the truth? That is long since forgotten?
Well, it's one of those things you can't do anything about it now, and I think that's his attitude. All right. Be better this time around.
We'll delve into it. Hi again, everyone. Welcome to Sidelines. I'm Mike Lucas from UWBadgers.com. I'm joined by the front runner, Phil Dawson from Big 1070, Jay Wilson, sports director from WISC TV, Channel 3 in Madison, Jason Wilney from ESPN Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Madison.
All
of the above.
Upper Midwest.
Points unknown. All right, go.
I don't have a nickname, though. Like
no, you might earn one. You might earn one. Follow up on what you just said, because it seemed a little too simplistic for me.
I think it was actually more honest than we usually get from people, because what you want to hear, as a fan, what do you want to hear? Oh, it's still eating me up. Well, what good does that do you in 2012? Now, if it motivates you more to work out harder and prepare better, then that's great. But I don't think they lost because they didn't prepare as well. Now, they had a very rocky week that week, obviously with Joe Philbin's son dying, TJ Lang's father dying. There were a bunch of other things going on. They didn't play very well. They didn't play to their character. But again, what good does it do you now in 2012 to worry about how your 2011?
Well, the only reason I brought it up is because you talk to anybody from the University of Wisconsin football program, and they talk about failing twice in the Rose Bowl and wanting to get back and how they're driven.
Right.
Different casts of characters and players, but they're using it as incentive and motivation, maybe during the offseason.
Well, and it worked a couple of years ago. Remember when they were kind of out of focus, and they needed to get that focus back, and it worked, and they got into the Rose Bowl not last year, but the year before.
It was they all saw about it's one thing to get there, but it's not enough just to get there. You have to win there.
But you can't dwell. You can waste a lot of energy, a lot of anxiety, a lot of focus dwelling on a bad day. You had one bad day. You had 15 great days.
And I think that's their feeling.
Only 2 bad days.
They fumbled. They lost 3 fumbles in that game. They had lost 3 fumbles on offense the entire year, the previous 16 games. You don't want to hear it, but they had their worst possible day at the worst possible time. I think that's how Rodgers sees it.
It's gone, but it's not forgotten. They've all moved on from it, but they know they could have played better at that time, and now they have to play better through this entire season, get there again, play better when they're there again, and win another Super Bowl.
What has happened is the regular season has been obscured by that loss in the postseason, has it not? Near perfection. But we don't even think about that anymore.
Right, and who was the number 1 seed when the Packers won the Super Bowl in 2010? Does anybody know?
No, we couldn't.
The Atlanta Falcons. I mean, I knew you'd get that.
After you said Atlanta,
don't give them clues.
But it doesn't matter. I mean, the Packers proved it in 2010. The Giants proved it in 2011. And hey, let's be honest, the St. Louis Cardinals proved it last year in the World Series, too.
All right, I'll defer to you because you're our NFL savant. Does it mean anything that Rodgers and a vote of his fraternity brothers is number 1 or not? Or you just, that's nice?
First of all, I don't know about that title. Second of all, I prefer front runner, maybe.
But
NFL savant.
Can't be choosy. Just take what I give you.
I'll trade with you.
Very sparkly, very shiny. First of all, I am philosophically opposed to these lists.
Okay.
So of course I'm going to do one. I just think that they're ridiculous. It's the off season. You got nothing else to do on the NFL Network. So let's put together this list.
I understand that.
Apparently, I don't know who these guys are that voted. I've asked 20 players in the Packers locker room, all prominent players, people you'd want
and none of
the
them
opinion
had a vote?
of. Not a single one says he voted,
but
including Aaron Rodgers.
They're not lying to us. I mean,
no,
NFL
I don't
Network,
think they're lying to us.
They did give the vote to some players.
Oh, I don't think those players are lying to us, but I think the voting process, there's something hinky about it.
Okay.
I still think Aaron Rodgers would be number one on the list.
Transparency. You want to see who voted and
exactly
who they voted for.
But tell me, you want to put together exactly, yeah, because those coaches polls are all by the coaches. Yeah. Here's what I want. I want to see the NFL Network do a list based on 32 pro personnel scouts that breaks down the best 100 players. That's a list I'd be interested in because those guys watch more tape than anybody of all the players in the league.
But then none of those pro personnel scouts could give their name, so it'd be an unnamed scout
right,
for
but
so-and-so, right?
At least you'd feel like
AFC.
I mean, you know, you've got Owen Daniels, who I like and got to know when he was coming out, but he's got like the Dom Capers comb over on his interview, and I'm like, wait, who is that? He looked like a 50-year-old man, and I like Owen Daniels a lot, but it's some sort of new look that people are kind of like the glasses.
But it's a good talker. That's what these lists are all about.
Exactly.
It gets people excited one way or another.
Strangely, they're still trying to figure out who's voting and when in Mexico and Chicago.
Oh, that's
in their
true.
elections as well. So this is an
little
ongoing
political
process.
commentary.
Very nice,
always spinning for our show.
Brown with us, you know.
Put the glasses on. We both
You like that look? That's pretty sweet, isn't it?
This one has lenses, though.
Yeah.
You're not trendy.
But what putting Aaron Rodgers in the vote number one is, no matter who did it or who voted it, it's just reinforcing what we knew already.
That's kind of a no-brainer, isn't it?
Right. He's the
Pretty
reigning
much.
MVP.
Yeah.
And the year before, Tom Brady was number one, and he was the MVP.
No, I think I'd be miffed if I was Romo when I was 91. And I mean, against Roethlisberger, I apparently was, number 29?
27?
27.
Or
Eli Manning,
30.
31.
What about Matt Ryan? He's not even on the list.
Okay, so that's
Should it be important
a
for
source of
players to be
irritation.
on this list? I mean,
I would think.
they're voting for him.
If your peers are voting for you.
When John Kuhn was number 92,
You're right. That might have been
I
a
think that's
telltale
pretty much.
sign.
And Tim Tebow was 95. They actually debuted the list, the first section of it, after the draft. So we were in the press room at Lambeau, and they had it on the monitor after they had finished their coverage. And all of a sudden, I look up and I see John Kuhn, 92.
You went,
Wait, this can't be.
You've underrated him for years.
I clearly have.
Because the summer is a great opportunity for lists and just talkers. I mean, the Green Bay Press Gazette came up with who's the greatest Packer of all time. Never been asked, but they asked it again. And now how do we put or bring context to it with Brett Favre and Bart Starr? And actually, it was Ron Wolf who got this going, spiked it a little bit by saying Favre is the greatest Packer of all time.
Yeah, and you know, we had Bob Harlan on our show this week, and it made a lot of headlines, not because of this, but because of talking about reconciling with Favre and his regrets with Mike Sherman. But he said he used to be in the camp of Don Hudson was the greatest player ever. I'm still in that camp personally.
You are too?
I am too.
Having never seen
just
him
on
play.
numbers. See, now that goes back to how do we evaluate?
It's
He
easy.
changed the position.
All right.
And he changed
Is that
the
what
game.
Well, not only that, but what we can compare them on, let's just look at what they did. Winning, were they the best in their respective time period at the top of their game? And then look at the numbers. Don Hudson still has numbers that survive to this day in the NFL record book. So why not? Why shouldn't he be considered? Still has 3 titles. Has 2 MVPs.
I think it's so difficult though because
it makes sense.
There's no reference point beyond the numbers, the cold hard facts.
I buy into the videotape, and I would take Favre because he did things that
So you would take
we've
Favre
never
over
seen.
Starr
We've never seen. I would.
and Rodgers.
Yes.
Partially because there is no videotape of the
Because Rodgers' grade is so incomplete.
Okay, how about you?
I would stick with Hudson because he revolutionized
let's go with the
position.
quarterbacks.
But
Some of the
I would say that
quarterbacks.
Favre, in terms of pure greatness as a player, deserves that.
All right.
But he was a better player than Bart Starr. Bart Starr, better leader, better winner.
You're right.
So
you're right.
those are
intangibles.
all.
Captain Intangible.
Well,
Bart
let's be
Starr.
honest. How hard are these to do to compare not only different eras, but then position
The people
players
around
playing
them.
the same position?
You know,
in
the thing,
different
the
eras.
rap. If it's a rap, the knock against Stars. Well, he had all those all-pro players around him, so somehow that diminishes the star. Or that's what the people who cast that argument would like you to believe. Who do you have on those 3 quarterbacks?
Well, I'd probably have to go far because I saw it happen first and foremost. You know, I was up front and watching it, so I was able to witness the greatness happen. But I mean, it was also, you know, what about
Rodgers is close.
If we're sticking with just Packers,
another one.
I hear you.
we
need to take a
know
break.
that
You're watching
Reggie
Sidelines.
White is considered one of the best defensive players
He doesn't
of
get
all
much
time.
mention, and maybe that's because he wasn't there long enough.
Right, I think that's why.
And
he's a Packer
and it was a
still.
rental.
And that's why Rodgers isn't quite there yet.
Yeah.
I mean,
Would you rather be a Hall of Fame player without a ring or a guy that won a ring but wasn't good enough to get into the Hall of Fame?
A Hall of Fame player without a ring. Just because I feel like you got to sacrifice so much individually just to be good. Now, they draft you individually. They draft you. And so you gotta back them up and make them right.
You talk about a question every sports talk show host in the country was happy to hear. It's that question and the answer, the follow-up, the answer. So I pose it to you. How do you see that? Is it better to be a Hall of Famer in the body of work or to have that Super Bowl ring? And let me just throw that. LeBron was a Hall of Famer,
right?
But he wasn't given his full due until when? That he won the championship.
Won the title. That's.
What do you think?
At first, I think this is an easy slam dunk. Why would you not be a Hall of Famer? You want to be a Hall of Famer. That's what you get in. Everybody recognizes you as one of the best players of all time. But you'll never be recognized as the best player if you don't have that ring, right? So
Dan Marino.
Right, but he's not. No one consider. I mean, he's up in the conversation, but no one says he's number one.
Well, maybe he doesn't deserve to be number one, but he belongs in the conversation.
Give that guy a ring, and it changes the complexion, right? So I would.
So you're wavering.
I think, yeah, a little bit wavering because I think I would rather be a Leroy Butler, a Donald Driver who has a ring and has all the fame, because I'm never going to be considered the best of all time anyway if I don't have the ring.
Marino probably gets tired of it because every time he's mentioned as a Hall of Famer, it's the Hall of Famer without the ring.
Yeah.
I have more respect for someone who's in the Hall of Fame rather than just a championship. Because a championship is not just about you, it's about the bounce of the football, it's about who you're around and that sort of thing. We just mentioned about Bart Starr, Hall of Famer and
you have more respect for the Hall of Famer, but which would you rather be?
Oh, I'd rather be a Hall of Famer.
All right. Well, you are in your own right.
Well, thank
right
you
here
so
in
much.
Madison.
But to be great over 15 to 18 years.
A body of work.
I tell you, I have always had more respect for that.
But you're still a loser.
But aren't you?
I'm a loser
because you don't have the ring. I can walk in and go, bing, bing, ding, bing, bing, bing. Nice career, Jay.
We can't. You couldn't make that argument for LeBron.
Nobody's gonna like you if you walk in a room going like that. Bing, 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 bing.
LeBron,
get all my rings.
LeBron could not be complete without the ring.
Right.
Is that fair to say?
That's true.
But, I have a ton of respect for LaDainian Tomlinson because he answered the question honestly.
Yes, he did.
Because the right answer there for public consumption is, and here's a guy who played on some very good San Diego teams that didn't do it in the playoffs, right? Under Marty Schottenheimer.
True.
So he answered the question honestly, and then everybody's torched him. Well, what kind of competitor are you that you'd rather be a Hall of Famer? Well, you have to think of the guy's personal experience. Now, I'll tell you this. If he had won a ring, I wonder if his answer might not be slightly different. But I think Jay hit it, that you're so dependent, no matter how great you are, especially in his position where he's not a quarterback, you have to be on a really good team. And, there are probably players on some of Brett Favre's teams that thought they had the greatest quarterback ever, say the Minnesota Vikings of 2009, but he threw a pick and led them all the way to that point and then threw the pick late in that game, and they never won a title.
So then why did everyone find it so easy to criticize LeBron, number one, for getting to that team that could get him to a championship, leaving Cleveland for Miami, and
because
number two, for not fulfilling that expectation in his first year?
Because we want people to build it themselves. We want the Robin Younts. We want the Joe Montanas who won 4 Super Bowls in San Francisco. We don't want the guy, instead of doing it in Cleveland and finding a way to get your team there, to go somewhere else.
Do you feel that way about Steve Nash, who's left Phoenix for the Lakers? Because now he has a chance at the age of 38 to fulfill his expectation, and that is win the first ring.
Yeah, very different point in his career. Not in his prime, running out of time, wants to win a title before it's over.
So you don't see it the same way as you did with LeBron?
I think it's totally different.
All right, I'm curious.
But he did. He left the Mavs to go, to Phoenix, and left Phoenix to go. I think that he needs a ring just as badly as anybody else because he'll be right.
We don't talk about it
right
at
the top of the list. Well, as soon as we start continuing with these lists, he'll be right at the top of the guys who are the best players in NBA history without a ring. That'll be Steve Nash. He's 5th all time.
But he seems okay.
He's a 2-time MVP.
Yeah. Well, he's led the NBA in assists the last 3 years on a team that was awful.
At an advanced age, in what, quote unquote, the twilight of his career.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and he's going, he's going to a situation that's not a slam dunk that he wins the NBA title either. They're a little long on the tooth there. Now, if they're talking about Grant Hill going there too, they're really long on the tooth with Kobe.
But they've positioned themselves nicely for a run.
Much better.
Maybe one last run.
But what about the young upstart Oklahoma City Thunder?
Still can't stop Westbrook. You know, that's
but they have some tough decisions to make during the out of season too. After seeing where they were flawed against the better competition. Now let's move to Tony Romo. All right, because he's that next great quarterback everyone would like to believe that he is. I don't. Has he been treated fairly or unfairly? Have the expectations for Romo been reasonable or unreasonable, Jason?
Well, first of all, I think any team that has its owner making its personnel decisions is flawed. Jerry Jones pays all the bills, I get that, but he needs a football guy, in my opinion, because he hasn't given Tony Romo the players. You know, it's kind of like the argument about Ron Wolf, that Favre made these receivers great. It wasn't the other way around. Tony Romo threw 31 touchdowns and 10 interceptions last year. When I saw that Brett Favre said that he's most like him, I said, yeah, maybe.
How do you think Romo reacted to that?
And Tony Romo, I don't know Tony
We need to take another break.
Well.
You're watching Sidelines.
I know him a little bit, and I don't think he didn't worship at the Brett Favre altar growing up in Burlington.
Well, who among us thought, when he was at Eastern Illinois, well, that's Tony Romo. He's going to be an NFL quarterback.
I remember there was a time when people were saying I could never win again. That was, I think, about 6 months ago. Here we are.
Yeah, here we are, and Tiger says that he's annoyed by the media. All right?
That's a shame.
Just the media very annoying.
I'm annoyed by the media sometimes.
That's very true. He's got an argument. I understand what you're saying. Yeah. To me, is he less likable now that he's starting to play better again, and then started throwing it at us? What do you think?
I think he's more likable because I think winning.
Is he likable at all? Maybe I should have phrased it that way, right?
I like him. I like him a lot, and my kids they'll watch him. They'll clear their schedule.
It's a tremendous show. I've wrapped a club around a tree, but not with the same results.
By the way, the thunderstorm warning for Morris in Sussex counties is in New Jersey. so do not be alarmed.
People are doing dances right now thinking it might rain.
But I mean, we forget now that he's back. You look at
PGA, he's not back.
You look at the PGA statistics. He's leading in money. He's leading in scoring average. He's leading in FedEx Cup points, and he hasn't played.
The bar is different for him. To be back,
he needs to win a major.
Yes,
we still need to see that.
Then he's back,
but he's not going to win
every
10 tournaments a year anymore.
But you can't.
It's a different situation.
I'm sorry. It's not. I don't like it when people say he's back. No, he's not back. He hasn't won that major yet.
I do know this. He's playing the golf that people like seeing. When the best are doing their best, it's the best. And that's what we're seeing with Tiger Woods.
He's best in there enough?
Yeah.
He's not playing Triple B like he did when he was by far the best player in the world, though. But he's playing
better than everybody else.
He might be the hottest player. I'll give you this. I think he might be the hottest player currently.
Okay. Isn't that being back?
I don't think so.
He's the best in golf right now,
his standard is different than anybody else's. It is.
Sure.
The bar's higher.
And that's why I look, and that's the only reason I'm saying it. I'm not trying to be stubborn about it. I'm just saying we put him up here, and there are only a few golfers that are up there with him.
We thought he was going to obliterate Jack Nicklaus's record, and now we're still not entirely sure how long it's going to take or if he's going to do it. So I'll say this. The one thing he has accomplished is reminded us all, and again, my kids aren't in the same spot as you. I'm on a different end of the parenting spectrum, but he's reminded us that we appreciate the greatness that athletes put forth on the field of competition, and we don't worry about the kinds of things they do off the field because we can't worship them for that. Because this guy is one of the greatest golfers of all time.
And he's going to win that major.
Nobody looks at him the way they used to.
And he's going to win that major, just a matter. Right. Unless he gets hurt again. It's a physical thing. And I know he's got some mental demons, but I think he's starting to overcome those.
Well, and it's much better to have him on top of the golf world than
the
15 different winners of the last 15 majors.
I keep waiting for one of those players to step out. Rory McIlroy? Rory is just a little bit too young to take that mantle?
He's in love.
And it's not with a Perkins waitress.
He's dating the former number one tennis player in the world. No, everybody who plays golf out there is going, golf is hard. It's hard to hit every shot,
right,
like Tiger Woods did in 2000. And whether you're Rory McIlroy or Luke Donald or anyone else, now we can do that.
Tipping it backwards.
But I mean,
take another break. You're watching Sidelines.
It was the big three, and maybe Billy Casper and a couple others. I mean, now you've got 40 50 guys at least in every tournament who can be as strong.
Yeah, but how long ago was it that it was Tiger? You'd make your picks for the Masters, and it'd be, are you taking Tiger or are you taking the field? Right? Exactly.
That still applies, doesn't it?
Because he's the best.
Most tournaments. Doesn't it?
I don't think.
You can watch a podcast version of our show by going to channel3000.com. If you have a question for us, go to Sidelines at channel3000.com or Sidelines on Facebook. And if you have a really, really super question that we like, you have a chance to win a $25 gift certificate, $25 to Christie's Landing on the beautiful shores of Lake Waubesa. That's a good deal now. Take it from me. It's a good question. Indeed. No question about it. Should fans have a vote in baseball's All-Stars? I got a better question, okay? Sorry, JoJo. Why in the world is Tony LaRussa voting? He's out of the game.
Oh, deciding on the reserves.
That's stupid.
That's just baseball's rule. But baseball doesn't
Don't you think that's wrong?
It's America. Everybody gets a vote.
Ask Dusty Baker how he thinks about Tony voting.
Or Zack Greinke.
Yeah.
You know what? We waste more time worrying about who's on an all-star game in baseball.
We do, but that brings some attention to it.
Well, and there's the point. There's the rub.
Sort of like a college football playoff.
Well,
I'm number 5 and I'm mad.
That's got a little more teeth to it
Right?
than that. But, you know, whether Tony LaRussa did or didn't, or was trying to stick it to somebody.
Yeah, but it's
good
LaRussa.
for it's all good for baseball.
It's all good for baseball.
It's all good for baseball.
Tony LaRussa. No, nobody likes Tony LaRussa.
I kind of like him, and I'm happy that he did stick it to the Reds.
Are you a Cardinals fan? Is
No,
that
I'm
why?
not. I'm just saying that.
What about sticking
like
it to Zack Greinke? I mean, they're playing the All-Star
maybe
game
he's not the
in
deserving
Kansas
guy.
City. They set up his pitching rotation so he would be able to pitch in the All-Star game in the city where he started his career.
It doesn't seem fair, does it?
That is wrong. And that's Tony LaRussa. That's wrong.
See, so you agree
Look
with
at
me?
his numbers.
LaRussa should not have had a vote. He should not have been able to vote.
Should have been on the team then.
Come on.
There are no ramifications.
He shouldn't be managing the team.
It'd be different if
Then
LaRussa
fans
was still in the
shouldn't even be
game.
Tired.
He's not in the game.
But is he sitting there going,
you won the World
Yeah,
Series
he should
last
put Carter vote on him.
You're telling me that because Zack Greinke pitches for the Brewers didn't come into his thinking at all? Come on.
Makes a great story, but who cares?
He carries
Zack
more
Greinke gets
grudges
3
than
days off the
anybody.
West.
Good for him.
You don't think he had a grudge on the Reds?
Yeah, of
Cueto?
course he did.
And Phillips? You don't
Good.
think that was
Too bad.
predetermined on his part?
I think they should post on Facebook everything that goes on after the cameras are on. I think that would be really good, like outtakes from Sidelines.
That's been talked about.